Well, today we're going to take a look at this portable power station from Yoshino. Now, what makes this power station unique are the batteries that are inside. They are solid state batteries, which immediately gives it a couple of advantages over other lithium-based power stations. You know, solid state batteries are less likely to catch fire, and they don't have all those issues that other lithium chemistries are prone to. So they're safer to operate, and second is that they have a higher energy density. So that means that you can cram more power into a smaller space. For example, this doesn't look like a very big power station, and it just kind of looks like a mid-sized power station, maybe 2,000 watts or something like that. But this B4000 model actually has a rated output of 4,000 watts continuous. So I'm excited to actually test that out to see if it will deliver on that promise, and we'll push it to the limit and see how far it goes. Oh, fan's kicking on. Oh, it just dropped off. But in addition to the batteries, there's a lot of other bonus features and other stuff that we just come to expect from power stations that we'll take a look at, run a lot of tests, explore a whole bunch of different ways that we could use a compact, high-powered, portable power station like this. The first thing that I noticed with this power station is that it just looks good. It looks like a nice appliance that you could even put in your house, or set on the counter, and it just doesn't look like this generator thing that you're probably going to have in the garage or carry in the back of your truck, or something like that. So it has a very stylish and appealing look to it, and it's very sleek and streamlined. The overall case here in the middle is plastic. It's gray. It's got this two-tone gray look with some kind of subtle branding here on the side. And the front and back have this kind of recessed green matte, just kind of subdued green look to it. And I'll also notice that this aluminum band that goes all the way around the unit to provide support, and it's actually part of the handles, it's the way you carry it. It's also got a nice green tint to it. It looks like it's like powder coated or something, but it's really nice, and they've done a good job of making this just an appealing power station. But another thing that you'll notice here is that it's not real complicated here on the front. You still have access to the connections and the outputs here, that you're going to use frequently for your just everyday electronics, like your USB connections and some other stuff, and your display here that you're going to access and see, when you're controlling the unit. All the other stuff, like the thicker, heavy-duty AC power cords and big connections for charging and discharging large things, are all in the back. So you won't necessarily see those if you have it kind of tucked in to a hole. So I think that's a plus, but it really depends on how you plan to use something like this. We've got a cooling grate here on the front. Kind of peek in there, you can see there's a couple of cooling fans in there. And if we look on the other side, there are some cooling fans on this side too, but it looks like they're reversed, so it's pulling air through. But what I've noticed so far when using this is that it's really quiet, and it only ramps up the cooling when you've actually got heavy load on it. Oh, and there's also wireless charging here on the top that is just available when you turn the unit on. If you have it sitting out, you want to just set your phone on there, and if it's set up for wireless charging, it'll just start charging. So that's nice to have. Now, the weight of this unit is 53 pounds, which, it's not incredibly light by any means, but the way that they've incorporated this handle all the way around, it gives you two handles, one on either end. So instead of having this handle on the top, which some of them do, makes it more difficult to carry, like a heavier, basically a big battery. You have this handle on either side, which I found makes it feel a lot lighter because you can just carry it with both hands, and you're carrying it kind of like an ice chest, you know, or a cooler or something like that. So ergonomically, I think they did a good job with this. And on the inside of each of these handles, there's this nice kind of a thick rubber. I don't even know if it's rubber, but it feels rubbery. But yeah, it really gives you a way to grab onto this power station when you're moving it around. To turn on the power station, you just press and hold this power button for 3 seconds. So I'm going to do that. 3. And it comes on. And on the display here, it shows us the number of hours remaining based on, you know, the amount of energy we're pulling from the power station at any given time. So this number is going to change quite a bit. And next to it, we see our state of charge, which is the percentage of battery capacity that we have remaining in the battery. Now, the battery capacity inside here is 2.6, roughly 2.6 kilowatts. So that's the size of the battery inside here. And I believe they're offering add-on expansion batteries as well. So you're not really stuck with what you get with this power station. It's definitely something that we can expand to support, you know, different situations. You can see that the screen timed out here. I noticed that it does this a lot. I'm not sure what the timeout limit is. It's pretty short, maybe like 30 seconds or whatever. So to turn it back on, you just press any button, just tap it, and it'll bring the screen back on if you need to see something here. But as you'll see when we start plugging in different things to the power station on the back for inputs and outputs, you'll see the you know, the wattage and these other ratings show up here on the display as well. Right here on this section, it's blank right now because there's nothing plugged into it. There's really minimal things here on the front, so it's not really cluttered with a bunch of stuff, but we've got some USB connections here. So we've got our USB 2, 2.5 amp connections here, and on the bottom we've got a couple of USB-C ports as well. We have a standard USB-C here on the right, and on the left here is a 100-watt USB-C connection for charging like a laptop or something like that. And on the right-hand side here, we've got 2 DC 12-volt outputs. And one of the things you'll notice is probably missing here that you see on a lot of other power stations is that kind of that 12-volt cigarette lighter style socket. They didn't include that here, but what they did include is this cord that has that 12-volt socket, and undo it here. So yeah, you can plug in your 12-volt stuff that might go in this type of socket, and then plug the other end here into that DC output right here. And to turn on this section, and same is true with the USB, is that you just press that button above that little section and it enables the output here. And the same thing with USB. It'll enable that output there. That's pretty much what's on the front, besides this last thing, which is a light. And you just turn it on right there, and it activates this nice kind of soft white light, and it's pretty bright when it's dark, but yeah, it'd be good if you have this just mounted somewhere and you just need some extra light. You can turn that on and it's going to run for a long time. There's also a Wi-Fi. Let's turn off this light. Just tap it again. And lastly, there's this Wi-Fi button here, which you'll use when you're wanting to connect the power station to Wi-Fi and be able to control it remotely using the Yoshino mobile app, which looks like that. So we'll flip this around to the back, and we can see our AC outputs here and our charging inputs here. So let's start here at the bottom. We've got our two 20 amp standard 20 amp type of sockets for standard household 120 volt AC stuff. And we've got 2 of those here. To enable those, we hit that AC button here. And the circuit breaker for these 2 are actually located inside this little access spot here. And this is the circuit breaker here for these 2. It's not associated with this other plug here, which is our 30 amp RV plug. So this is nice to have this. It'll give us a 30 amp output that we could use to power, you know, a trailer or, you know, a smaller RV or anything that you want to power with a 30 amp output. So yeah, this circuit breaker over here does not affect this 30 amp because this is for 20 amps only. And above it is our charging inputs. So we've got a standard AC input here for charging. So we've got this cord that it comes with and nice little Velcro strap around it. And we would plug that in here like this and just plug this into any wall socket. So the nice thing about this is that you don't have this giant brick, you know, that comes with some of these power cables. It's just a cord. And what we'll find is that it charges really fast if you're using the AC input like this. In fact, they say that it'll charge up to 80% in 70 minutes. Now next to the AC charging input, we have a DC charging input. So this is an XT60 connector, and this input has a maximum current rating of 10 amps. So we have a little circuit breaker, a little pop-out circuit breaker here that if we exceed that, it'll probably pop out, I guess, if you have an overcurrent situation. But we've got a couple of cables that it comes with for this XT60 port. This one here plugs in there, and it includes 2 MC4 connectors here. So this is our standard solar panel input, and you can use it with optional solar panels that Yoshino has, or you could use it for any set of solar panels that don't exceed 60 volts, I think, is the maximum for these. So we'll test that and see if that's true. Now they also throw in a car charging cable, so it uses the same XT60 input here, and we've got our cigarette lighter style plug, so we can just plug that into our vehicle or anything that has this connector on it. So again, maximum 10 amps. And that's going to be 12 to 60 volts input. Now the last thing here is this Smart Link power plug, and this is going to be used for adding expansion batteries to this power station. The expansion batteries, I believe they're going to have the same capacity as this, which is like the 2.6 kilowatts. So you'll be able to add additional batteries to expand this system out, and you're going to use this this port here to connect them to the main power station. We're not going to be using that right now because we don't have any expansion batteries right now to test. Inside the power station here is a battery management system that they've developed in-house. So they've really optimized this BMS to provide really fast charging capability and to regulate the power output and input. This is a 4,000 watt continuous power rated power station, so we're going to test that and see what happens when we start hitting that limit. Now the power station is also UL listed, so it carries a UL 2743 listing. Just like all the other appliances and household electrical components that you use in your house, and it's safe to use, so it's been tested. If you want to research it further, it's a UL 2743 certification for this thing, so that's nice to have. I installed the mobile app and connected it to the power station, and then use the app to upgrade the firmware on the power station before I started using it, just to make sure I had the latest and greatest software loaded here before I went on. Before jumping into some of these more extreme tests that I want to do to this machine, I want to share with you some of the tests that I've already done, just to kind of demonstrate and test some of the basic functionality for some common applications. Now, when I first received the power station, it was at about a 50% discharge, so there's about 50% of the battery that's available. It was a nice sunny day, so I hooked up the solar panels that they also sent to try out. Each panel was laid out on, outside the shop here, and I connected them in series, so I had a total potential charge wattage of 600 watts. So they're 200 watt solar panels, times 3. I connected the output of those to the power station and let it sit for a while, and they were able to charge the power station all the way up to 100%. So the solar charging was working pretty well. Now, before plugging stuff into it, I wanted to double check the sine wave on this output. This is a pure sine inverter inside here, so it should have a nice clean sine wave for 120 volt AC single phase output. So yeah, once I had the scope connected to one of the 20 amp outputs here, it gave me a nice clean sine wave. The next thing was to just try to test the power station on some of the tools that I use here in the shop frequently. The first thing that I hooked up was the chop saw, and just to see if it would just chop some or saw some wood without any trouble. And even though that chop saw has a pretty good jolt to it, some good inrush current to start out with, it handled it really easily. And then I moved on to the sander and just sanded that wood a little bit, make sure that that was working fine, handled it without any problems. Then I took it outside and hooked it up to my table saw, my job site table saw, and it performed just fine. So everything seemed to be going pretty well at that point. I wanted to push it a little bit further and set it up with my welder. So my welder is, it can do either 120 volt AC or 240 volt AC. So since this only does 120 volt, I was able to use it with my welder. But I connected up the welder outside, grabbed some metal, got all set up, and did a little bit of welding, and it handled it just fine without a glitch. So I was pretty happy about that. I also took it out to the RV and was able to hook it up to the RV, make sure that the RV recognized it. Even bringing the power station inside the RV, I could power all of my appliances that we typically use. We have an induction plate that can draw a lot of energy. I think I had it set to maybe 1200 or 1400 watts, and I ran that while running our coffee pot. It's a Keurig, and it draws a lot of energy too. So even just running both of those together, it handled it just fine. And then I set up a solar panel outside connected to the power station. So I had charging current coming in from the solar, and on the other side I connected my e-bike to it and was able to charge the e-bike from the power station at the same time while bringing in a little bit of solar to charge the power station. So those tests went pretty well. Now this power station has a UPS mode, which the UPS stands for uninterruptible power supply. So that's useful in if you want to use it for emergency backup power. While you have grid power hooked up to the back of the power station here, it will continue to use that grid power to provide power to any loads that you have connected to this power station. So it won't use the battery and it won't use the inverter in here. Now, when the power goes out and that grid power drops off, then it should automatically switch to inverter and battery power and continue to power whatever's connected to it. So that automatic power transfer that occurs in here should happen really quick, like 20 milliseconds. So I have a light here that should let us know if there's any flickering to see how that switch occurs. And we'll also have this heater turned on. It's got a little light on here too. So we'll see if there's any momentary drop in power when it does that switch over. I've gone ahead and charged it up to 100% so it won't be trying to charge the battery. And then we'll monitor the power here on this meter to see if it's pulling power from the grid, and then we'll kill the power and see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the AC power in the back. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so we got our light and heater's running, and it says here that 450, 480, 90 watts, 500, and it matches what's on the meter here coming from the grid. So that's good so far. We've got 540 watts or so that's being passed through the power station to keep the light and the heater running. We'll go ahead and kill the power. This should drop to 0. Okay, so we had a little bit of a flicker. So now it's switched to inverter power. You see it now, it says there's 4 hours remaining and it's pulling 680, 690 watts. I'll switch it back to grid power again. Okay. So now that I switched it back, it's pulling 1251 watts, which is more than the load. So it's using some of that to charge the battery back up that it used in just those few moments. So it seems to be working. You could tell there's a little bit of a delay there while the light went off and came back on again, and the same with the heater. So that's that 20 millisecond switch over, but the automatic transfer switching did work. Well, in this next test, I want to see how the power station handles an over voltage, over current situation when charging from solar. Now, why would I want to do this? Let's say you wanted to use your own solar panels to recharge this power station. Well, if you do that, you need to make sure that your solar output is within the operating range of this power station, which is 12 to 60 volts and 10 amps or less. Now, it's certainly possible that you could exceed that if the sun peeks out from behind the clouds or something, and your voltage or current spikes. So I want to see how the power station is going to handle that, because you don't want to have it just shut down on you when you're charging, and that would be a bad thing because maybe you're not even around. So let's go ahead and simulate some solar. I have a power supply here that I rigged up, and it's variable, so I can adjust the voltage output, and we're gonna keep an eye on this gauge here to see where our voltage and current is that's charging the power station here. All right, flip the switch on. So right now we are showing 42 volts and it's around 10 amps already. So if we look at the front of the power station here, it's bringing in just over 400 watts of power, of solar power. fake solar power. Okay, let's inch it up a little bit. I'm going up to 50 volts, and it is at 9.7, 9.8 amps. It says 485 watts here. We're still charging. We'll just keep pumping that up. Let's see if we can get close to 60. Ooh, I just went over 60. We're right around 60, still under 10 amps. It's still charging at 590 watts. So let's keep going up. See if we can get it to drop off. Okay, 630 watts. Oh, fan's kicking on. Oh, it just dropped off. So if we look here, it went down to 0. So basically we're not accepting any more charges, and the amps went down to basically 0. So it doesn't appear to be giving me a fault or an error or anything like that. It just stopped charging from solar. So let's start dropping the voltage again and see what happens. 65 volts, 63. Oh, so now it's charging again, just automatically. So yeah, it's pretty smart. I like how they handled that. So it's not really going to be an issue if you exceed that 10 amps. Well, the testing's going pretty well so far. So now it's time to just pull some serious power from this power station and see if we can hit that 4,000 watt threshold or above, and see what happens. Now I've got a lot of stuff plugged in right now. I've got the 30 amp cord actually plugged in, and it's going to a step down cord. So I got a few other things plugged into that circuit, and both of the 120 volt plugs on the back are consumed by various things. So I got air compressors and heaters and a heat gun if we have to dial something in. So I'm going to start with a couple of air compressors, because I just know that in the past those have been issues for some testing that I've done. So I'm going to start with a small air compressor, and it's going to be really loud, and then we'll get that running, and then I'll fire up the larger air compressor. So we'll have two going at the same time, and we'll watch the screen here and see where we are in terms of power output. So let's fire up the little air compressor right here. We did it. It hit 4,000. Okay, it's just under 4,000, and then it crapped out. So I want to try something else real quick, just to kind of dial it in, see if we can get something a little more gradual, so we can see where the power is, where it actually went out. Loads from the air compressors definitely took its toll. Let's try this one more time. We're just going to use heaters this time, and this heat gun that I can dial in here on the back. So we'll see how close we can get. Keep an eye on this right here. Okay, we're just over 3,000. The fans on the power station are revving up. Okay, it's holding at 39:34. I gotta find something else. So this should push it over the top. Here we go. All right. It got up to 4,400, which is great. Well, typically when I've tested things like this, you can usually find something that you don't like, something that doesn't quite work right, something that's just weird. But I haven't been able to find anything like that with this power station. I'm actually impressed by it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm reviewing it. I've been trying to break it and push its limits, and every time it seems to handle those conditions very well. So they've no doubt tested this very well before they released it. The price on this guy is usually around $2,900 to $3,000, and they have a special right now, and occasionally I've seen some deals, but there are no other power stations that I know of like this. So it's kind of the first of its kind, with this chemistry, with this form factor, and the amount of power that it can output. So there's that. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna put links to where you can learn more about this in the video description, and if I can think of some other things that I didn't mention, I'll also add that to the video description as well. So thanks for sticking with me to the end here. I really appreciate it, and yeah, I'll see you down in the comment section. If not, I'll see you in the next video. So take it easy.